So the first question is, have you ever joined a mastermind? And what's your thoughts? So for those of you who don't know what a mastermind is, there's a terminology for getting together a group of people that are interested in the same thing, and it's a bit of a power team or a power network where the group of individuals have a concentrated focus on achieving an outcome, and generally it's in similar ventures. So starting a business or the same industry, or they are targeting the same sector. The idea behind it is that if you wanted to, say, consolidate a sector, or you wanted to grow a sector, or you wanted to essentially develop something and it was maybe a bigger task than a solo venture, you might want to get a collective team together that would be the who's who of movers and shakers in that industry, so that you could then go out and collectively achieve a result. Now, that doesn't mean that you have the same skill sets. You could have different experience. You could have someone that's young and hungry. You could have someone that's older and with loads of wisdom and experience. And you could have a collection of them. You could have different experiences in terms of where your knowledge lay. So very similar to what you would do if you were building a board in a business. So when you build a board, what you do is you bring in people with different experience that collaborate together to achieve the vision and the mission of the business. And generally that board is there to carry out those particular skills required to do it. The mastermind group is more of a sort of behind closed doors, round table idea where you collectively get together. Generally, there's not a formal setup like in a board, and you would help each other. My thoughts in mastermind is that there's two trains of thought. Traditionally, there was mastermind was usually done when you came across people at different settings. Generally, it would be maybe through business contacts. Maybe you met at conventions or seminars or something similar, and you would have you would meet these people, and you would maybe suggest this idea of collaborating or building a mastermind group. You could initiate conversation to find out what your contacts. You could share your contact list with each other. You could maybe suggest what you're looking for, and you could try and find the right people for the job. Other traditional versions of it would be you would meet at certain clubs. So, for instance, you might have members only club. Is a famous example where you would frequent these places. You would meet the right type of people, and there was also secondarily at events you could arrange to meet different groups, but they would generally be you would meet people one-to-one rather than a big group setting. But the idea of the mastermind overall was, hey, look, we're interested in the same thing, we see an opportunity, and it's probably bigger than a solo adventure. Should we maybe do something together? And that is sort of what a mastermind is. And the key point to it is that you collectively as a group have the experience, you collectively as a group have the network, and collectively as a group have knowledge in different sort of sectors. And that gives you some strength, because you've got, rather than trying to do it solo, you've got that wider network, you've got that wider sounding board of knowledge and skill set out there that you can ask those questions out and say, look, what do you think? And that sounding board's very, very powerful. So the mastermind in itself is extremely powerful when done well. There has been a rise recently of people sort of selling the idea of a mastermind, which is sort of a pay to play. And if done well, there's no harm to it, but it does give rise to some people tapping into the wants, desires and needs of people who are looking for a genuine mastermind environment, but they're maybe sort of seeing the opportunity, not necessarily providing the value. And I think that's one of the things that I would say previously wasn't a big factor, but now predominantly that there's been a shift where you need to be aware of what it is that's being proposed, because lots of people can make the right noises, but can they back that up? Myself personally, I've never been involved in this pay-to-play mastermind setup. Generally what you'll find is that if you have a great skill set, people will seek you out, and you will seek other people out who have a great skill set. But generally there's not a sort of pay to play in that, hey, look, I'll show you my network if you pay me, £10,000. And likewise, I'm not going to say to someone, hey, look, I know someone that will fit the job, but you need to pay me to access that. And that, in very sort of harsh terms, is what some of the projections are with some of the new suggested mastermind concepts are, where you come in here and you're going to have access to this huge network. You're going to meet business people that are out there, and you're going to have this sort of whirlwind rise, this huge ascension to the higher powers of the business world. And what I would say is that if you want to do that, that's something that is up to you. It's worth considering. But let me put this to you. If you're in that situation, a lot of the things that we discuss on the podcast and that comes up very often is imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is essentially you're there and you don't feel like you belong. And when you're in if you're in that rapid ascension mastermind group and you want to feel that you bring something to the table, that doesn't need to be a lot. You can show up there and say, hey, look, I'm just starting out. I'm hungry. I'm keen to learn. And, I'm willing to put in the work and the effort. That's okay. Not a problem with that at all. Right. And people will respect the honesty, the candor, the fact that you've just sort of laid it all out. Very, very credible. The difficulty lies in that if there's an element of fake it till you make it, where some people can use that well, and there's other people that just use that to exploit to their financial advantage. So it would just be mindful when you go out here that if you are considering a mastermind and it is a pay to play setup, do a lot of research into what the offer is and what you might get out of that. If you are going to pay for things, what would suggest that you look for is that what kind of value would you get? So what's on offer? Is that tangible? So are you being taught something? Is there something that you can recognize that you're going to get from it? Is there people that have been there and had experiences with whatever that offer is, and they've got a result? So they're the key things to look out for, because generally you'll find that people are very, very quick to say, hey, look, this was amazing. Because if you do get a situation like that, it can be life-changing. And people who even wouldn't normally go out and review something or give their opinion on it would likely come out and say, hey, look, this was that life-changing to me. I'm happy to, put my full weight behind it. And I think that's important to find whenever you're looking at these things. So try and look past the gloss and the glamour and the noise. You maybe have seen my recent post where I says that, the flashy life is cool, but don't be distracted by it. When the real gem is in the mindset. So focus on the mindset and not the Maserati. And that's a sort of analogy to try not to get caught up in the noise and the flash and the glitz and the glam, because it is very cool and it's luring, but also try and find the substance behind it. And one of the things that we do with the guests that have come on, we've had a lot of fabulous guests with some of them have done extremely well. Some of them are on the rise to do extremely well, but we try and dig into what's been the substance behind them that has got them great success or is likely to get them great success, because success leaves clues. And this whole podcast is about finding out what the clues are, so that when you see these clues in you or someone or in your own life, you can recognize them and you can back them. Because the key to this is learn how to back yourself and find those things that are worth backing.